Welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Ashley Martella, and we're very happy to be joined by former Pennsylvania Congressman Pat Toomey, who is now president of the Club for Growth. Welcome, Congressman.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, your organization, Club for Growth, very active in political affairs, political campaigns. What are you doing right now?
Well, we're more active than ever, and this last election cycle was a very, very active one for us. Let me just explain briefly what we're all about. The Club for Growth is a national organization with tens of thousands of members across the country dedicated to the idea that prosperity comes from economic freedom. So we're big advocates for limited government and economic freedom, lower taxes, less government spending, free trade, all the hallmarks of free enterprise. Those are the policies for which we advocate, and through our political arm, which is our PAC, we help to elect guys to Congress who share that vision. And we've had quite a lot of success over the years. Our membership is growing and strong and committed, and frankly, I think with what's happening in Washington, it's increasingly energized.
Okay, the country's in bad shape. A record number of people are losing both their jobs and their money, or at least one or the other.
Right.
Yet Obama keeps ramming through these massive tax and spend packages.
Right.
Assuming they don't work,
right,
what do we need to do to foster recovery?
Well, this is what's very worrisome. Not only will they not work, but they are counterproductive. And I think President Obama means well, but the policies are going to be very harmful. We can't borrow and spend our way to prosperity. We can't tax and spend our way to prosperity, and yet that's what he seems to be trying to do. What we might have done and what we still need to do is, number one, provide some certainty. There's a real danger that capital is going to go on strike because capitalists don't know what the government's going to do next. And this episodic quasi-nationalization of financial services companies and perhaps the car companies and others is very, very disturbing and destabilizing. So some certainty about government policy would be enormously helpful. Certainty about taxes. I mean, the best thing we could do is make the 2003 tax cuts permanent, but while we're at it, let's just eliminate capital gains taxes, and how about temporarily suspending the payroll tax? I mean, if you want to put money into the economy, letting every worker have an increase in take-home pay is about the best thing you could do, and at the same time, you'd be lowering the cost of hiring a new worker for every employer. What better combination for preserving and creating jobs and helping the economy? That would be extremely constructive. Meanwhile, there's still some regulatory things. I mean, I think we need to reform the mark-to-market rules as they affect financial institutions, regulatory capital. That's certainly something we ought to do. There's a lot we could be doing. Unfortunately, they're just in borrow and spend mode. That's not going to solve the problem.
All right, your conservative organization's been very active in limited government and spending restraints,
right,
very active in promoting those. Yet, as it turns out, in the recent government spending bill, Republicans not only went along with Democrats on earmarks, but added a whole bunch of their own.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
Well, it's very, very disappointing. And we've been very critical of the Republicans who haven't understood that, really the unifying idea for the Republican coalition is limited government. And that has to include limiting the amount of spending, especially the wasteful spending that's really inexcusable. Now, keep in mind, most Republicans voted no on this bill in the House, but there was a disturbing handful that were happy to go along with all this pork. It shows that there's still work to be done to get Republicans in Congress to understand what it means to be Republican.
Now, the so-called stimulus bill never could have passed had it not been for the defections of three Republicans, Arlen
Right.
Specter, Olympia Snowe, and Susan Collins.
Right.
Now, should Snowe, Collins, and Specter be punished for their votes?
Well, let me just make a point here, because this was it was really a shocking betrayal of a tremendous opportunity. The House Republicans voted unanimously against that stimulus bill. It took them a while to get there, but they realized as a group, and then every last one of them put up the vote that said, we're just not going to go along with $1 trillion of new debt and wasteful spending. When they did that, they empowered the Senate Republicans to sit down with President Obama and say, Mr. President, we're not going to go along with this. Like our House colleagues, we're going to be united in opposition unless you give us some changes that will actually grow this economy. Give us a suspension of the payroll tax, or give us a zeroing out of capital gains. And we would have had to accept some spending that I wouldn't like, but we could have had a constructive pro-growth compromise.
All right.
Instead, these guys just completely sold out, and I think the answer is they will inevitably face consequences for
Okay,
this.
Specter's up for re-election next cycle in 2010. Should he be subjected to a primary?
Yeah, I think somebody is going to emerge, and I think that's very, very likely, and I think it's appropriate.
Is that somebody you perhaps?
Well, I'm giving that some very serious thought, and there's a real chance that I'll decide to do that. I think we need to have people in the United States Senate who are willing to stand up and say, enough of this, crazy economic policy. We need to focus on what's really going to grow our economy, what's really going to create jobs.
Another thing, you're possibly considering running for governor, is that correct?
I've given that some consideration as well. At this point, I'm more inclined and more focused. I think I can probably accomplish more in the United States Senate.
Representative Pat Toomey, thanks so much for spending time with Newsmax.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.